Alright everyone, listen up. The serve is the one skill in table tennis you can master entirely on your own. Think about it, players with a fantastic loop or a killer banana flick are rare. But you'll find many players with a very effective serve. And when I say a good loop, I mean someone who can unleash continuous power loops. Those players are truly hard to find. So today, let's break down my approach and insights on serving. How do you win points with your serve? Fundamentally, there are 3 ways. First, through pure spin. For example, a heavy side topspin hook serve can be an outright winner, even if your opponent knows it's coming. The second way is through deception. You use the exact same motion to serve side spin backspin, and then side topspin. The third way is through variation. One serve to the short wide angle. The next a short hook serve. Then switch to a reverse pendulum. Always keep them guessing. So, which of these 3 can you develop? I find the biggest issue for club players is the inability to serve effective side topspin. This is why your opponent can push everything back, your heavy chop, your no spin, and even what you think is a topspin serve. The reason is your topspin serve lacks speed. A slow ball doesn't kick off their paddle. It hesitates, allowing them to easily chop it back. A fast ball, however, will kick upwards off their racket. It will pop up. They don't have time to execute a proper chop. The faster they try to chop, the faster the ball flies off the table. But with my slow, dead ball, it stops on their racket, so they have all the time to guide the push back. The principle of a side topspin serve is essentially a fast, long serve. Watch, this is a fast long serve. If I change my grip to a hook position, it becomes a side topspin. All I've changed is the racket angle. Notice, there's no brushing motion. It's still a fast serve. A hook serve with no spin, or a pendulum serve with no spin. Instead of contacting the back of the ball, I'm contacting the right or left side. There's no fundamental change, the speed and velocity are identical. A serve like this is impossible to push short. Let's test it. A fast long serve, a hook serve, a pendulum serve, none of these can be pushed back effectively. Can they attack it? Yes, they can rip it. So, this type of spin only prevents the push, it doesn't stop them from attacking with topspin. So how do we make them miss their attack? First, use speed to eliminate the push, forcing a topspin return every time. Second, we can't let them power loop it, because I need time to recover after my serve. If they attack hard, I'm out of position. So, how do I make the ball kick or jump off their racket? Which one has more kick? The first or the second? What is kick? A simple drive is just fast. A loop has kick. A ball with kick forces errors long. So remember, for topspin serves, it's about generating kick. The server with more kick wins. If you want to beat a more experienced player, you must play topspin rallies. Their technique is often inconsistent, so they can't maintain a rally. But a backspin game is different. They have the touch from years of practice. You can't outpush them, it would take you years to match their feel. Even if you manage to loop the ball, they can easily block it back with their experienced hands. However, if their technique is flawed, they'll break down in a rally. They might get one shot back, but the second will be a weak return because their foundation is poor. To beat a higher level player, you must challenge their fundamentals, not their strengths and tricks. Just serve a clear topspin and force them into rallies. Move them around, vary the placement and speed, change angles. Their flawed technique will fail them. They may have good hands, but forcing them to move exposes their poor footwork and unstable technique. This is how you win. You can't play to their strengths. That's why you must learn the side topspin serve. Otherwise, you're playing their backspin game, and the result will always be a loss. So how do we generate that kick? When my hand drops and then accelerates forward and upward, the ball will kick. Therefore, when serving any side spin, your hand must be lower than the ball at contact. Watch closely. Hand below the ball. The moment of contact must be below the ball's equator as you drive forward. Never contact it from above. If your starting position is high, and you swing down and then up, the spin cancels out. You'll only ever get a no-spin or semi-spin serve. You see pros with a high backswing, but that's for deception. At the actual point of contact, their racket is still below the ball. If you copy the high backswing but contact the ball high, your spin will be neutralized. So, when you're learning, just start with your hand at hip level. This serve is absolutely impossible to push. If they try to attack it aggressively, the ball will fly long because it has so much kick. It's just like a loop. Why does a loop have so much spin? Because you contact the ball from below. It's the same principle for a topspin serve. A flat hit contacts the back of the ball. A loop contacts the bottom of the ball to generate spin. So, the first key to generating kick is to ensure your racket is below the ball at contact. For a hook serve, why do I tell you to drop your shoulder? Dropping the shoulder naturally lowers your hand below the ball, allowing for an upward brushing motion. Players say my side topspin serve has a lot of kick. It's because I'm always contacting it from below, generating lift and forward momentum, just like a loop. If you serve downwards, you'll never get true topspin. The number one rule for getting kick is starting your contact from below the ball, for both pendulum and hook serves. So, keep that serving shoulder down. Don't raise it. That's point 1. Point 2, how do you generate kick? You need to create friction, just like in a loop. I need that sharp brushing action. It's the same for the serve. Watch, as I contact the ball and drive forward, the tip of my racket flicks upward. That little upward hook is where the spin comes from. At the moment of contact, you need a sharp snap or flick motion. If you want more deception, use mainly the racket tip for this flick. If you want maximum spin, use your entire forearm to lift upwards. Let's have him return one. If I serve normally, he can probably attack it. But if I add this exaggerated brushing motion, his attack will go long. Do you need friction? Yes. But when do you apply it? Keep your wrist stable during the backswing. At the exact moment of making contact with the ball, give it a crisp upward snap, and then follow through forward. If you only snap but don't follow through, the serve will be slow. Snap and then accelerate through the ball. This makes the serve both fast and full of kick. The more precisely you time that snap at contact, the spinnier the ball will be. If your timing is off, the serve won't have any kick. Why do some people get more spin on their serves than I do? Because the contact is even more concentrated and explosive. Maybe my brushing contact lasts 0.3 seconds. There's a 0.1 seconds. It's more focused. That's the reason. If you want to disguise a heavy side topspin, use just the tip of the racket to impart that subtle flick. If you want to serve pure, heavy topspin and make it obvious, use your whole forearm and racket to lift up sharply. This applies to both shakehand and penhold grips. Using the forearm and racket together creates more focused power. Some of you might say, but if I serve like that, my opponent will easily see that it's topspin. That's where the follow-through and deception come in. At the advanced level, my motion is 90% disguise and only 10% the actual contact. My backswing is flat. The upward flick at contact is real. But the follow-through is flat again, faking a backspin. Look at this serve. Doesn't it look like backspin? The trajectory is low. Let's have him try to return it. See? It's impossible to push that back. Why? Because the initial racket angle is flat, and the follow-through is also flat. But I've shown you the secret. For a split second at contact, the racket face is vertical. Then it returns to flat. This makes a topspin serve look like a backspin serve. This is the challenge of serving. Without understanding these details, you could practice for 5 years and make no progress. For example, watch this serve and tell me if it's topspin or backspin. I bet you all think that was topspin. It was actually backspin. So don't get discouraged. Once you master this, your opponent genuinely won't be able to read your spin. Now, let's talk about getting topspin and kick on your hook serve. The key is to think of it as a looping motion. A hook serve generates force from inside your body to the outside. Imagine the center line is the target. The motion starts near your stomach and accelerates out towards the center line. That's the topspin motion. How do you get the kick? By performing a mini looping motion. The racket drops down, then comes up and forward. I'm just doing it with a hooked wrist. Now, let's make it a fluid motion, with the ball leaving my racket at this specific point. Look closely at my arm swing. This is a hook side topspin serve. No matter how complex the wind-up looks, the core principle is always moving from low to high. Look at the racket tip, down, then up. Now, let's put it all together. The rest is just a deceptive follow-through. After creating the kick, I add the fake motion. This makes it extremely hard to read. Most of my hook serves are actually topspin. You won't be able to return with quality, and I can attack your weak return. Remember, a hook serve's motion is from inside the body to outside. A pendulum serve's motion is from outside the body to inside. Once I've established this topspin motion, if I can use my elbow as a pivot and accelerate my forearm from low to high. See, forearm low, forearm high. At the same time, if I can drop and then snap my racket tip up. This will make your serve both fast and full of kick. And club players tend to have big swings when receiving topspin, which they can't control. After a few mistakes, they'll resort to a passive block, which is the perfect setup for your attack. For instance, a hook serve down the line is the most deceptive one. If my motion stops here, it's going cross-court. But if I stop my motion here, I can suddenly go down the line. It catches opponents totally off guard. That serve is very difficult to return. Trust me, serving is the most enjoyable part of the game. Once you have a great serve, you'll feel excited to play anyone new. That confidence is a huge advantage. Why do you fear matches? Because you can't return serves and you can't win points on your own serve. When your serve is a weapon, your entire competitive mindset changes. For all club players, mastering the serve and receive is non-negotiable.